Thank you, Mel. To kick off the 2013 conference properly and give us a warm Hawaiian welcome, we are delighted to have the Honorable Neil Abercrombie joining us this morning. Governor Abercrombie is Hawaii's 7th governor and was inaugurated on December 6, 2010. Governor Abercrombie grew up in Buffalo, New York, but came to Hawaii in September 1959, 1 month after statehood, to become a teaching assistant at the University of Hawaii, where he earned a master's degree in sociology and later a PhD in American Studies. Governor Abercrombie served in the Hawaiian State House of Representatives from 1975 to 1979, and served in the State Senate from 1979 to 1986, then moving on to serve more than 20 years in the United States House of Representatives, representing the 1st Hawaiian Congressional District. Please join me in welcoming Governor Neil Abercrombie.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. I'm going to move some of this. Oh, okay, that'd be great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, mahalo. Thank you very much. It's really difficult to figure out that President Aronson's from New York City, right? Buffalo, New York. I was on the Today Show about, 2:30 this morning, our time, out here in Hawaii. And Matt Lauer was saying that his roommate was from Williamsville, New York, upstate New York, where I was from. And he said, "How'd you get to Hawaii?" I said, "Well, I was in Buffalo." Okay, got it. Now, I want to say to all of you, and for all of your critics that didn't come out here to Hawaii just to show everybody, aloha. Some of you are out here having received a good deal of criticism. I'm well aware of it. I have a little compendium of it right here. Up here behind me, NCPERS, the voice for public pensions. And you heard this morning, I'm sorry to say, that we've lost a firefighter on the mainland. For those who find it so easy to criticize, the Star-Spangled Banner was sung by 4 firefighters here from Hawaii. I want all those critics to understand that the Aloha State is the 50th state of this union, and that public employees like me have contributed and participated in the greatest pension plan that ever existed on this earth, that an NCPERS represents. Every single one of us have devoted ourselves to public service. And all of you representing us, all of you who are public employees yourselves, are not just participating, but making your commitment to all those who have dedicated themselves to public service of a free people. And for those who have deigned to criticize you or criticize those public employees or those representing their interests, the question I have for them here in the 50th state is, I suggest you come out here and find out how to do it, because I see that some of the critics represent areas that have found their pension funds crashing, find themselves on the verge of bankruptcies. Some of the elected officials in particular. Where were they when all of this was taking place? It's easy for them now to say to those of us who are correcting the situation that they messed up, that they're going to deny one of the participants here from across the nation from having you come here and be able to meet with one another? Well, let me tell you something. Those who aren't here are missing out, because this state is doing things right. And I invite any of those legislators, any of those so-called representatives of the taxpayers, to come out here and get on a stage with me, and we'll see who's defending defined benefits the way it should be done, the pension system that represents the very best that this country represents. I dare say that some of those critics, I was thinking about naming them here because I'd like to invite them out here, but I'll forego that pleasure. I'll tell them, you have something to look forward to. I dare say that some of those same critics are the ones who will be benefiting from the pension system, who are only too happy to take the benefits that come their way. So don't let demagoguery and political rhetoric and agendas of any particular individual get in the way of you doing the serious business you have to accomplish today and the days to come here in Hawaii. One of the criticisms was that this was an exotic location. I remember reading one from a former legislator in California who's done such a terrific job in California, talking about Hawaii as an exotic place. I think he represented Marin County. I can speak with some authority about Marin County. I was a probation officer in Marin County. I love Marin County. Of course, I can't say for their judgment in electing some legislators from there, but let's see. He suggested some other places in California, for example, presumably less exotic. I think one of the places I read was Berkeley. I always thought Berkeley's pretty exotic to a lot of people in this country. Oh, see, he mentioned Napa. Oh, that's not very exotic. I don't know, Indian Wells, you name them. Oh, Monterey, yes. Of course, nobody enjoys themselves in Monterey either. The whole point of dealing with the pension systems right now, today, is that we're engaged in what I consider to be a struggle, in some instances a blood fight, as to whether we're going to go to defined contributions or defined benefits. And that fight is a fight that's being made on behalf of public employees all across the nation. And what it takes is politicians who are less interested in a political agenda and demagogic rhetoric than in those who are going to defend the defined benefit system to see to it that we are able to continue a pension system worthy of the name. Now, many of the people who are being defended by the Voice for Public Pensions here at NCPERS are not even necessarily fully aware of what's at stake. I can tell you, after 10 terms in the Congress of the United States, that there are many in the Congress today who are actively seeking to undermine that system, who are actively seeking to put public employees at a disadvantage. I sometimes reflect on the irony of the Iron Curtain coming down literally with the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989. And suddenly the focus on a presumed enemy or presumed opponent, a presumed foe, disappeared. And if you'll reflect a bit with me on that, what I think happened is we began to look at ourselves domestically. You see this with the rise of the Tea Parties of the right and left here in the United States. We now look upon our own people as an enemy to be thwarted, to be overcome. Public employees themselves have become an enemy. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't have problems that we have to meet, obligations that we have to address, But what it says is we have to reflect for a moment on just exactly who we are as a people. The government of the United States, local governments, state governments, are a reflection of our will as a free people. And that in the service of a free people, public employees are at the point of the spear of service for the public good. Of course, public pensions and public employees represent a special interest. Every single person in here represents a special interest. Special interest is just the continuation of the legacy of factions that you can read about in the Federalist Papers. That's what made the difference between absolute authority, dictatorship, the divine right of kings. We set a different kind of government into effect. And of course there's going to be factions. Of course there's going to be interests that come in sometimes in conflict with one another, not always in opposition, but with differing points of view as to how to succeed. The problem is not, and the question is not whether or not you're a special interest, but whether your special interest and the public interest coincide, or whether your special interest becomes a private interest at the expense of the public interest. And the public pension system, the defined benefit system, and what NCPERS represents is taking a special interest and making it a public interest, not on behalf of a private interest. But to advocate for a public interest is what NCPERS is all about and what this governor is all about, I can tell you that. Now, I'm pleased that you're here in Hawaii for another set of reasons. This is a global world we're in now. This is one of the factors that affects you when you make your decisions about public pensions and what to do, when you're making your judgments about how to represent the interests of the people who depend on you to exercise good judgment on their behalf. Hawaii could be seen, I suppose, by some as the westernmost outpost, the westernmost edge of the United States. But we also see ourselves as the easternmost anchor of the Asia-Pacific region. We understand globalization here in Hawaii. We're not just a crossroads here. That's 20th century, 19th century, 20th century terminology. We're this anchor of this new globalized world here in the Pacific, where 60+% of the population of the earth is going to be as we move into the next decade, 2 decades. Now, this is where the economies of the world are expanding, exploding. This is where the competition is coming. This is what we have to deal with in terms of the United States and its economic and social and political future. Everyone, East and West, can be comfortable here in Hawaii, because here is where the United States defines itself. Our diversity here in Hawaii defines us rather than divides us. It's a place where somebody from Buffalo, New York, could come as a young student, wide-eyed, full of dreams about paradise, and one day find himself elected governor. This is the state, this is the place where a young boy, born of a Kenyan father and a mother from Kansas, who met here at the University of Hawaii, where a young boy filled with the dreams of aloha, a sense of community, a sense of family, a sense of aloha, would be able to take that message of diversity across the United States of America and say that we could define ourselves and rather than divide ourselves because of our diversity and become president of the United States. So Hawaii is exactly the right place for you to have your conference today. Those of us who have worked on Hawaii's pension system, those who are the beneficiaries of Hawaii's pension system, as I am, are eager to speak with you and learn from you as well. My Budget and Finance Director, Calbert Young, is here in the auditorium. Our ERS Administrator, Wes Machida, is here also today, and Vijay Chatterjee, our Chief Investment Officer, is here. I think they'll be appearing on various panels, at various presentations, and they're certainly going to make themselves known to you, and I hope you have the opportunity to speak with them. I know you have a session coming up at the end of our remarks here about how do we transform the way people talk, think, and act about pensions. And I think all the other meetings that you're going to have are a variation in that theme. How do we think, talk, and act about pensions? I want to take a moment to in as much as I've critiqued other politicians with respect to how they're approaching this, by just giving you a little bit of a history myself. When I ran for this office, I was in the Congress for 10 terms. And I determined that I felt the Congress was moving into a position of stalemate where you could not discuss things openly and expect anyone to respond other than politically, without focusing on the mission that needed to be accomplished. And I came back here to Hawaii, and I think this is one of the things that needs to be done. I can't tell NCPERS what to do, but I can observe what happened in my case. I think you need to be on offense. I don't think you need to defend anything. I think what NCPERS is doing, what the public pension system is doing in terms of defined benefits, speaks for itself, and you need to speak for it. You don't need to defend it. You need to go on offense about it. And that's what I did. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. I went to fellow union members. I helped to form the first union, faculty union at the University of Hawaii. When I was a graduate student at the University of Hawaii, I was a member of the executive board of the AFL-CIO. So I don't come like some of these politicians that you're talking to here. They don't know anything. They have not participated. They can comment on it, but they haven't done it. Now, that doesn't necessarily make me any smarter. It doesn't make me necessarily any better qualified. But it sure does not put me in a position of not being able to speak with at least some degree of authority from having participated in it, from having to make the decisions about it. And that's what's at stake here. I went to fellow public employees, people that had been, with whom I'd been associated with I'd worked in the labor movement, with whom I had worked in legislative venues, whether it was the State House or the County Council here on Oahu, or the State Senate, or the Congress of the United States. And I said to them, we're going to have to pull together here. We had deficits. Now, some of you come from systems. Mr. Aronson comes from a system of billions, hundreds of thousands of employees, tens of billions of dollars. We're a tiny venue here. We have an aging population. Our retiree population per capita is probably going to being among the oldest in the United States, if not the oldest. Those over 65, that is growing like this, and living past 85 is growing even longer. The longest living retirees are going to be here. And we have another whole cohort of young people, little children depending on us, adults in the middle, the working middle class that forms the anchor of our general fund revenues in terms of taxation, in terms of the policies that we have to fund our pension plan that we have here in Hawaii, which I will match against anybody anywhere in the country. How are we going to do that with our small population? Those who are able to pay those taxes, I went to them and said, look, we're facing a deficit situation. The previous administration had done bookkeeping tricks, like not paying income tax returns, simply getting the money in, and then kicking to the next fiscal year, paying back the income tax, the refunds that people were due. It just so happened that the next fiscal year is when I came into office. So I was paying the taxes for funding for 2 years. We were $200 million plus in deficit just in that budget year, and billions of dollars in unfunded liabilities in health care premiums and in our pension funds. So I went to them and I said, And I think this is what needs to be done. We have to speak the truth to our people. We're going to have to help ourselves. I had to get some labor savings. I had to alter the percentages that we were expecting from employee contributions in order to get out from under, so that we could stabilize our state, and then be able to go to the credit rating agencies and say we're doing things the right way. We're setting ourselves on a fiscal course that makes sense, so we could get the interest rates, so I could put our own stimulus program together. The investments that we're doing right now in this state. Fixing the airport will be $250 million going out just to the Honolulu airport, and $1 billion plus all across the state in our airport, so that we can welcome people here, so that we can have the most modern system that we can, so we can build our schools. Our schools are 65 years old. I give you credit for trying to help New Orleans, but let me tell you, public school systems all across the country need that kind of support, need that kind of backing. We're going to put 21st century schools to work here in Hawaii, and we're going to fund it. We're putting out, it's not a lot to maybe some of you and you're big, but $40 million a month in this state at the lowest interest rates that we've had in 53 years since I came to Hawaii. 6 governors ago, the lowest interest rates that we've had. We're putting that to work for our own people. We're putting them back to work, and our general funds are increasing. We are reforming and improving public pension system, and we're doing it peacefully, and we're doing it successfully because we were honest with one another. We sat down, whether it was the public employee unions, whether it was the private interests, whether it was the Chamber of Commerce, whoever it was. We sat down and said, we have to pull together. That's the aloha spirit, working together. Our sense of community, our sense of family, we call it ohana out here. Some people, I don't know if they make fun of it, but they dismiss it. Oh, that can't be real. It is real. The public pension system requires that we all take a good, hard look at ourselves and say, are we truly free people? Are we truly looking out for one another as brothers and sisters? And if we are, then we're going to take the necessary steps. The smartest thing I did was appoint Calbert Young as the Budget and Finance Director. He's in the back of the room saying, oh God, he said that about me, now I'll have to try and live up to it. Well, that's the way I feel about it. It's personal. That's what a free people are all about. That's what government is all about. Government isn't some abstraction, someplace off in the distance. Government is flesh and blood. Government is a commitment to one another. I mean it when I say to you we have to treat each other as brothers and sisters. If we don't, then we're going to descend into chaos and fight one another and confront one another and end up in a war of each against all. We have to be brothers and sisters whether you like it or not. So when we came in, the ERS was cascading down. It was in a maelstrom, heading down to 50% and possibly below. I'm happy to tell you that we're headed in the opposite direction right now. $200 million plus. I can't tell you exactly, when I say plus, I can't tell you exactly why. You know why? Because Calbert Young, my Budget and Finance Director, and Fred Pablo, my tax director, came in to see me in April. I came in December 2010. In April, during the legislative session, he comes in and says to me, Governor, we don't know how much money is coming in and we don't know how much money is going out. We're afraid we can't pay the bills at the end of the month. You're going to have to take all the money out of the Hurricane Relief Fund and all the money out of the Rainy Day Fund so that we can pay the bills at the end of the month, and let's hope we can put this together. That's the kind of situation we faced. I'm here to tell you that thanks to the reforms that we've made, thanks to people being able to talk to one another about what we needed to do to face up to our pension obligations, I expect on July 1st, in roughly 40 days from now, we're going to have moved from a $200 million plus deficit to between $300 and $400 million positive balance in this state. And that means the public pension system is on its way back. We're heading towards 60% and rising in this state. Our actuarial funding duration exceeded 40 years. Unions, taxpayers, businesses, and the legislature all understood the importance of funding the system and the ramifications of failure. So I'm very, very pleased that we were able to make those changes. We changed the assumed rate of return, which was set in statute, and it's much more realistic now. The ERS Board of Trustees now has the authority to make any future adjustments on the assumed rate of return. You have to do these things. You have to be able to do it. We increased the employer contributions based on a percentage of payroll over 4 years. You don't have to do it necessarily all at once. If you're moving in the right direction, you're going to see not just progress, but you're going to see success. We do have reduced benefits for new employees after June 30th, 2012, because we want to make sure that everybody gets their benefits. One of the things I said to some of the public unions when I went to see them, I said, if we don't make an adjustment here, then we're going to have to do layoffs. All of this that we've done, moving to a positive balance, a change of more than $500 million, being able to go to the credit rating agencies to stabilize our credit rating so that we could refinance $500 million, which was huge for us the first year, refinance it at lower interest rates. All of these things that we've done was in order not to lay anybody off. We were able to do this, go from deficit to positive balance without laying a single public employee off. We did it because we pulled together. That meant sacrifices. That meant some sacrifices. Yes, people are going to have to sacrifice a little, but if we all sacrifice for the common good, then we're going to succeed. And we're living proof of it here in Hawaii. We've increased statutory requirements for trustee qualifications to make sure we have the right people. That's something that's our responsibility. We've addressed pension spiking. We've ended it. And that's what needs to be done. I pointed out to people, it's not fair. It comes from our side too, as public employees. It's not fair for some public employees to benefit at the expense of others by spiking their pensions at the end. Now, maybe it was traditional, maybe it was custom. I don't know. But it jeopardized the stability of the system. And so all new employees, and I didn't want to come back and say, oh, we're going to go ex post facto. So those of you who had come in under the system where spiking was allowed, okay, that's it, but no more. All new employees, non-base pay does not count towards calculation of pension benefits. That's out. That's in order to save the system. And everybody knows it's not right to do that. And you have to have somebody willing to say it. And that's what we did. And what the great part about it was people recognized that we were right. That's the kind of thing that was undermining the system. So I'm not saying this is all one way. What I'm saying, this has to be a dialogue based on honesty. This has to be a dialogue based on what are the true benefits for all of us. How do we see to it that everyone is able to succeed? For current employees, upon their retirement, their compensation is evaluated to determine whether it's spiking. I'm not saying that there shouldn't be overtime and other factors that are brought into account in terms of income, but you have to have an agreement and an understanding as to what is going to constitute the base pay in terms of what the pensions will be, in order not to extend the unfunded liabilities, to bring them down. Unfunded liabilities are crippling state and local governments across the country. This is serious business, and Hawaii is a place where serious business is being done, will be done, and has been done. I can assure you of that. So we find ourselves, I think, today in a terrific position. We find ourselves directing our attention where it needs to go. We find ourselves in healthy dialogue. We find ourselves in a communication with one another here in this state, facing squarely what needs to be taken into account when it comes to unfunded liabilities and the pension system, when it comes to how we're going to make sure that we are able to fund our health care premiums, when it comes to the factor of saying how do we promote and protect and project public employment to see to it that we meet all the needs of our people here in Hawaii. I think that if we take this same approach across the United States, if we're able to get an offense underway, of which NCPERS can be a leading factor in reaching out to those in political office who may not fully understand. Not everybody has had the background. Not everybody has the understanding. Many of them, I can tell you, many of the people in public office, they don't want to have to come up and say, well, I don't really understand what you're talking about. I don't really have a full understanding of what some of the decisions are that you have to make. Have some outreach to them as well. It takes more than just an argument back and forth about who's to blame. That won't solve anything. The question that needs to be asked and answered is, how do we move forward from here? And I think NCPERS, I think all of you here, I think all of your colleagues across the country who couldn't be here today have part of that answer, a major part of that answer, perhaps even a fundamental part of that answer. So I want you to know that to the degree and extent that the lessons that could be learned from what we've done here in Hawaii are applicable where you are, by all means, please, take them, use them, cite them. And I want you to know that you have friends here in Hawaii, you have colleagues here in Hawaii who understand the responsibilities that you have, the obligations that you have. And I want you to know that you have an ally and a partner in this governor in this 50th state. Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody. Mahalo, aloha. Yes, that's right.
Governor, thank you. Outstanding. One of the most important strategic thinkers of our time and a national security expert and best-selling author, Dr.